what is happening.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal.
And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
Inflation is down to just 3%. The labor market is steadily adding jobs. Wages are up. Consumer sentiment is the highest since September of 2021. Yeah. So there's a lot for President Biden to tout. The question is why Americans don't seem to be giving him the credit. A Quinnipiac poll this week found nearly 6 in 10 Americans still disapprove of his handling of the economy. Why is that, and what does he have to do to turn that around?
CNN's Dana Bash, couple of things. I can answer that question really easy. Why is he not getting credit? Well, there's two really easy reasons. Number one, you're pretty much lying. You're regurgitating all the White House talking points. We're going to break those down and talk about the facts about the economy. And why isn't Biden getting credit? I would say because people are looking at you can tell me all these fancy facts, Steph, like this is going well and job creation and this and CPI. But when you're going home at night and you're looking at your bank account, you're looking at your retirement, I could give a damn about CPI and job numbers. And I think that's what they're looking at their own finances. That's why they're not giving Joe any credit.
Exactly. And, going to the grocery store, it used to be I could just walk in there every week. I knew exactly what, no matter what, I didn't feel like I had to really put things back or worry about it. I could just go in, get what I thought I needed for the week. And the number, though, was all very, very consistent. It's still consistent these days. It's just consistently different than what it was, and not insignificantly.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, so I'm back to where I'm looking at prices again. Usually when I grocery shop, John, I know, okay, this is going to cost about this much. This is costing. I recently bought some lunch meat, like, ham, turkey, $8.99 a pound, maybe. Holy cow. This is why I'm paying attention to prices again. Give me a pound of roast beef, some smoked turkey, some Black Forest ham. Almost $20 per pound, 15 to 20.
And then you're too embarrassed to say maybe I want less.
Can you take some of this sliced turkey back, John? I only want half a pound.
Good time to be like Steph and not like sandwiches.
Exactly.
That was me at the grocery store a couple weeks ago. I got the cotton candy grapes. Have you seen those?
No.
No. Well, when I went to scan them, there was an issue. I was doing self-checkout, so they had to come help me. They finally get it all situated, and it was like $15 a pound.
For grapes?
I asked her, I said, is that right? She goes, yeah, they're expensive. I felt bad, and I bought them anyways.
It's like those apples. Which were the apples that are like $5 an apple? I forget which brand it is.
Fuji's are one of those.
The golden ones.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think that was the joy of the Trump presidency was it was just easy living. You had the ability to walk through the grocery store and not really have to check the prices. You kind of knew there was stability. You weren't going to be caught off guard, and that's all out the window.
So that story that just happened to Hannah, because what happens? You feel dumb when you're at the cat and you realize I'm not going to pay this much for this. This didn't cost this much January 20th of 2021. Why is it all of a sudden expensive? It's on January 19th. It wasn't that expensive. Now and it puts people in uncomfortable situations, and that's why Joe does not get credit, because the reality, the facts, despite what Dana Bash said, she's wrong, she's lied. We're going to get into that some more. She's talking to Nancy Pelosi and some of the glowing terms Nancy Pelosi said about Joe Biden. I just wonder, are you detached from reality? I get it. I have some preconceived notions about Joe Biden. I have, as Hannah definitely pointed out to me several years ago, confirmation bias. So anytime Joe does something stupid, I'm like, see. Don't like the guy. Don't like what he's done to the country. Don't like what he's doing for the country. But for Nancy Pelosi to go, oh my, he's the greatest ever. I'm like, really? Do you really believe that? Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Brian Houseworth is here.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. There's producer Hannah.
Hello.
My name is Branden Rathert, John Marsh. This boat crash, Lake of the Ozarks, man. This is USA Today, Fox News. Why is this blowing up?
I think there's two reasons why. Number one,
because a boat hit a house. Let's just say the obvious. A boat hit a house.
Yeah, and alleged drunken boater as well, and it is a miracle no one was killed. There were people in the home. The boat, I've got a picture up, 939theeagle.com and kws.com. Just take a look at that house. I mean, it is a miracle no one in that boat died after being ejected. However, 6 seriously injured, and the Highway Patrol should not have had to do this yesterday. They actually, Brandon, had to put out an appeal. So many people were showing up at this poor guy's house gawking that they had to put out a public appeal last night. Because it's private property. Huh? Folks, don't do that.
I saw that.
They shouldn't have to do that. It's also a crime scene right now.
So is that
alleged crime scene?
So kind of like when you see an accident on Highway 63, everybody slows down, and it may not necessarily because they're diverting traffic or anything. Traffic is slowing down. How come? People want to look.
That's right.
They want to, and the same thing with, hell, pull over and ask to see the bodies. Why don't you? How rude. Just keep going.
Rubbernecking is terrible.
In this case, they were actually on the private property, stopping to get onto the private property, which is basically a peninsula.
But it is pretty unbelievable. I mean, having lived in mid-Missouri my whole life, having been to, there are lots of people on the lake. There are lots of boats on the lake. I've never seen anything quite like this.
This isn't like that time a guy had been drinking and he put his car through his ex-girlfriend's kitchen.
Everybody survived that incident, too, incidentally.
I think they had somebody crash a car into Hy-Vee in Jefferson City last week, but not quite as spectacular as a boat going airborne and landing on a house.
So what's the details, John? Like, you read the police report, this boat must have been cooking. What happened exactly?
Yeah, well, it was almost midnight on Saturday night, and the driver, they said he was driving at a high rate of speed, ran it aground, and hit the house, and the boat overturned and threw everyone out. And like Brian said, 6 of the 8 injured had serious injuries.
And there's one other thing we should note as well. That's absolutely right, John. The home sustained extensive damage. I mean, that home is going to, I hate to think of the cost of the home, and I hope they have insurance. But all 8 of those folks, including the 6 seriously injured, none of them are from the state of Missouri. Not one. They're from Huntington Beach, California, Chicago, so Michigan, Mississippi. It's interesting that none of them are local. So they were probably thinking they were on a vacation, and who knows how long they'll be hospitalized.
When people come to the Lake of the Ozarks from other parts of the country, it's akin to us going to Las Vegas. When you go to Vegas, you lose your mind, you lose your identity, you lose your money, you lose your inhibitions. I'm in Las Vegas. Ain't nobody from Centralia, Missouri going to run into me here. I can do whatever I want. Same thing when people come from Ames, Iowa to the Lake of the Ozarks. To them, this is Vegas.
This is why we need the rebrand. Not Vegas, it's the MAGA Hamptons, according to an article from last week. That's much nicer and tamer. We really need to work on that.
The Midwest Coast.
Wow.
Was that... I saw that article, the MAGA Hamptons, and I didn't get to read the whole thing. Was that complimentary or
it was?
Okay,
yeah.
I love it.
But can you imagine if you were the people in that house, like the noise that you would have heard, and then you're in your underwear and it's midnight and you're like, what in the what on earth? And
why is there a boat in the bedroom?
I mean, can you just imagine coming out to that scene? Just awful.
Jamie, via text, 874-9390. Nighttime speed limit on nighttime speed limit, Lake of the Ozarks, 30 miles an hour. Guy was going way faster than that. One of the reasons the story's making national news. And it's almost like he was going so fast. I wonder, was it intentional or were they all just drunk? Fortunately, nobody died. Most of the people are from, would it be taking a cheap shot to say most of these people are from blue liberal cities?
I don't want to. Well, 1 and 2 are from Mississippi too.
Yeah.
So I really don't want to get into
I don't either, Brian. I was teasing.
But I will say this, Brandon, very quickly to Stephanie's point about the noise. In the report on our website, kws.com and 939theeagle.com, I linked to the crash report. And it is a lengthy paragraph of how many first responders responded from agencies all over. You can imagine how, and they were out there all night. If they weren't woken up, they would have been woken up right afterwards.
Yeah, it was a crazy scene. All right, so now back to CNN's Dana Bash. She's asking Nancy Pelosi, the CPI and this is up, and how come he's just not getting any credit? I don't understand, and this has been a common complaint of the left. I'd say he's not getting credit because people are looking at the reality. You hear about the embarrassing story. Hannah had to return some grapes. She couldn't afford grapes,
No, I bought them.
and she had to return some.
You bought $15 a pound grapes?
I didn't know what to do. I had
You eat them with a knife and fork individually? Or?
I felt bad because I had to wait for the customer service person to come help me. I sat there and asked if that price was right after she rang it up for me. She goes, yeah. And I was too embarrassed to say, here,
That's right.
take these back.
Yeah, that's right. But Joe, that's what he's making people uncomfortable because they're going and they're I said, I paid $18 for a pound of smoked turkey. Last I recall, it was like $8.99 a pound, sometimes $7.99 a pound. But I'm not looking, and it's making me look again, and that's an uncomfortable feeling, and that is directly tied to the president. We can say all these things we want about the president, but when it hits home, when the president in effect is embarrassing you because you have to return some grapes that you can't afford,
Or you should have returned.
right? Is it more embarrassing than to have paid for them? Because I do that too. I'm like, I'm not going to cause a scene. I'll just pay this much and I'll move on. Then are you more embarrassed afterwards that you didn't have the ability to say nope then?
Well, when you put it that way. And actually, I just threw out half of them because they went bad in the fridge.
What kind of grapes? I want to try those. Try those out. So anyhow, so CNN's Dana Bash. All this is going on, and this is going on. What's that going on?
John, did you drop your tinfoil hat?
No, I dropped my sack of grapes. They were a little on the ripe side.
So here's just a couple of quick facts regarding the economy, because you hear the CPI numbers, and Stephanie, who does the Morning Bell every morning, 8:25 business news, a little twist only Stephanie can give you. She does a good job in covering this stuff. So here's an example. So when the White House comes out and they tell you these things, or when CNN says, "Oh, this is good," here's just a straight up cold hard fact. Before, in the days leading up to Joe Biden being sworn in as president of the United States, what then would cost $100 today cost $116. That is well beyond any type of regular inflation. It is directly attributable to Joe Biden. Biden saying he created 12.7 new jobs. You got to look at the number of jobs that had been taken away prior to that because of the government pen. He's saying we've added all these jobs. That was going to happen. You could have made Bozo the Clown the president. We would have gotten those jobs back.
He only created 12.7
million. 12.7 might be more accurate.
Well,
though.
and what they're not taking into account is that a lot of folks are having to get second jobs. So I would be interested to see the numbers of new people entering the workforce versus people who are just having to double up.
And that's the baffling part. These people that go on the TV and saying Joe is doing such a good job. My gosh, mental issues coming up. Daily DC rundown. We'll do that for you at 6:25.
A new group might dominate the 2020
What a tough job that'd be. I mean, again, he keeps wandering off like a toddler in a mall.
All right, so obviously they're talking about Joe Biden, but here's the thing, and Stephanie and I have been talking about this since January of 2020. Well, basically since November of 2020. We said Joe becomes president, we immediately take a hit on the worldwide stage. We talk about other countries and how they talk about us, whether it's in their social culture, late-night comedic TV, or just how the politicians talking to us. That is Sky News Australia. We are the butt of their jokes because of Joe. And that is getting us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
They're giving Joe a break, and instead they are sending Jill to Paris this week. She is going to visit as a result of our return to UNESCO membership after a 5-year absence. They're saying our rejoining of UNESCO fits the president's goal of strengthening global partnerships. So she's going to go do some ceremonial stuff, and then I think she is going to meet with the wife of French President Emmanuel Macron. They've met several times.
She keeps doing this stuff. Like, she's pinch hitting for him all the time on a lot more stuff, and I get it, because they're... Even though they won't say, well, we don't want to put him out there. They don't want to put him out there. I wonder how many people are going to start saying, hey, how about Joe Biden run for president?
Well, and he's going to have to campaign, right? Because RFK's picking up some numbers against him. So they're like, hey, we'll send her over. Let's put him on the ground here, and hopefully he'll keep it together enough to convince everyone he can do it again.
You know who really loves RFK? Fox News. He's on Fox News all the time.
And Republicans in Congress. Yeah. I mean, they had him last week. It's kind of crazy. At the same time, so Jill is in Paris. A new group is emerging for 2024, and we've kind of seen this group. I think we saw it for the first time really show its teeth in the Youngkin campaign. But it is said, and a lot of campaigns are focusing on it, that mama bears are the next big group for 2024, the most coveted group among Republican primary candidates. We talk about soccer moms or NASCAR dads. Now we're talking about mama bears. Trump said groups like Moms for Liberty had really taught the left a lesson, saying don't mess with America's moms. And now, of course, Casey DeSantis has launched Mamas for DeSantis officially. And she said it's one thing when your policies come after us mamas. It's another thing when your policies come after our children. That's when the claws come out.
2.5 years ago, Stephanie and Hannah and I, we were at this event. State Senator Caleb Rowden, 2.5 years ago, said education is going to be one of the biggest issues coming down the pipeline. We look to, I think it's the Francis Howell School District here in Missouri, St. Louis area. They've been making big news in the St. Louis area over the past few days. They have now a conservative school board. You have all kinds of education. You have what happened in Florida, and Ron DeSantis saying, we're not going to lie about slavery. We're going to tell the truth and talk about some other aspects. So all this educational stuff, and it's landing in today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
Yeah, I think education and then the economy, too. I mean, I said it's the first time in my life where I thought, I might, as a mom, I might not be able to give my kids a better future than I feel like I had, which is the ultimate goal. And I think that really really hits parents. And I think GOP candidates should be looking at mama bears. Also, Alabama is still fighting over its congressional redistricting. We remember that recent Supreme Court decision that kind of came as a surprise to everyone. They've redrawn the maps. It's headed back
Congress, from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media, and we will liberate America from these villains once and for all.
New Trump campaign ad. Pretty powerful. It's like him. It looks.
Yeah.
Did you see it? You like it? It's
Yeah,
good.
I like it.
John, it's almost got that feel like he's a boxer and he's walking to the ring and, they got kind of the black and white and it's the slow motion. I think it's a very powerful ad. Friend of the show, Claire McCaskill, disagrees.
It's kind of lame. I mean, I didn't know whether to be frightened by the ad or to laugh out loud.
It's kind of lame, she says, John. I thought it was a cool ad.
Pot kettle.
Yeah, welcome into it.
The former Columbia Hickman cheerleader, we like to point out.
She was always, and when I talk to her, I have occasion to see her in Jeff City. And as a matter of fact, she was at Statesman of the Year thing, John Rizzo, a couple of months ago. And I'm like, Claire, you got to come back. No, I don't want to come on because MSNBC, they pay me. She doesn't say that, but she's busy and she didn't want to come on. I'm like, Claire, but our visits were epic. I said, people hated it when you were on the show, and I loved it. She says, I know, and that's why I think about doing it every time because I know it makes people mad. Welcome to the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah. There's John Marsh. Brian Houseworthy here. My name is Branden Rathert. Getting ready to look at, I would say maybe, for what it's worth, it's July of 2023. All right. We do have some debates coming up less than a month.
I can't believe it.
I know. So we're getting into it. Primary, obviously, a year away. As a matter of fact, Scott Faughn, Missouri Times, he joins us 7:10 because we're going to be looking at our gubernatorial race and where we are right now. Heard Bill Eigel interview with y'all went almost Missouri viral. What happened there, man? People say, Bill Eigel, what? I'm like, I don't know. I'm on a mountaintop in Idaho. I can't. I'm not even getting a signal. He
was just wound up that morning.
Was he?
He was super fired up, and he was criticizing everybody. I think he was just super mad about not being mentioned in the Crystal Quaid ad. He wasn't, but
She mentioned
up.
Kehoe. She mentioned Ashcroft. Why didn't she say anything about me?
And he was pointing fingers and naming names and something that Ashcroft would not do when we spoke with him and said, I'm not going to get into that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to talk about my record. So,
and
Ashcroft took the moral high ground or whatever.
Two very different approaches.
Well, and Bill Eigel, John, I would get, and I don't know that I've seen any polling, but I would easily assume Bill Eigel nowhere near the two front runners. Would I be right, you think?
So I don't know. We heard the numbers on the money raising was climbing up, and Eigel had posted quite a bit of bucks there just the other day.
So isn't that what you do if you've got nothing to lose and you're in last place in a three-man race? Basically, what do you come out swinging and you can do some things the other guys can't do. Maybe kind of an enviable position, especially if you're getting ready to cash in on some donations. So on the GOP presidential polling side, typically it's been Trump and DeSantis, and I like DeSantis, but I'm in the minority apparently because every single poll, not only is he continue to be in second place, but just not even close, and that's beautiful. Believe me, more than anything, I want Trump to be president. But here's the reality, in my opinion: Trump's just not. He's just not going to win a general election. He just simply will not. And if so, if you believe he can, seriously, tell me why. Because I want to believe you. You're not changing anybody's mind. We talk about Democrats, Republicans. The key are the independent voters, people whose minds can be changed. Nobody will change their mind about Trump. And I hope I'm wrong. Listen, I've never hoped that I've been ever more wrong ever in my life, and I hope I'm wrong with this. But if you think there is a way that Trump could win a general election, please send us a text. Tell us how, 874-9390. So it's been Trump, DeSantis, Trump, DeSantis. One poll has a new second-place runner.
Huh?
This was a flash poll done on the Gary Nolan Show. Gary Nolan Show here, weekdays, 9 o'clock. What day was this, Feel Good Friday?
Yeah, I think it was.
Thursday or Friday, Gary Nolan doing a flash poll asking folks here in mid-Missouri who they liked as their number 2 choice. And the big winner, Hannah, that day?
Overwhelmingly, it was Ramaswamy.
Yeah, Vivek Ramaswamy, who's actually been on this show before. I'm a huge fan. He's got just as much chance of becoming president as Bill Eigel has of becoming governor in Missouri. Doesn't mean I don't. I love everything about Ramaswamy. There's nothing I don't like about the guy. In Utah, DeSantis was asked about polling. He had kind of a quick comeback.
Utah today, your poll numbers behind President Trump have been pretty substantially behind. Can
Not here.
So the reporter saying, hey, your poll number has been pretty substantially far behind Trump. What are you going to do? And DeSantis points out, not here in Utah. So most polls continue to show him leading Utah. I think Trump has gained some, but Utah, and I think it's 4 electoral votes. So right now, DeSantis has that in the bag. Florida, and there is it 27 electoral votes. His home state also happens to be the home state of Trump. That's all for Trump right now. And you know who else is showing up in the state of Utah? Liz Cheney.
What?
Yeah, I don't understand that, John.
It's Liz. I guess she still has her strange base of support out there, huh?
Yeah, I thought that one was kind of odd. And then we're going to be looking at our gubernatorial race coming up 7:10 with Scott Faughn from Missouri, from the Missouri Times. Also coming up, I'm going to talk about Zuckerberg's Threads. Did you try the Threads thing?
Yes, yeah. I am on the Threads. I think they're not called tweets. What are they called when you post a thread?
Is it a stitch? Did you post a stitch?
That's really good. Yeah, I posted a couple things and meh.
Yeah, you're not a fan so far?
I thought it was going to catch on really quickly. So far, I haven't seen it. But then again, like mid-Missouri, I mean, we're kind of like we
it takes us a while.
You gotta show me, right? Like I'll see what everyone else is doing, and then if it's cool, maybe I'll check it out. So I don't think I know a lot of people on there yet, which makes it less helpful.
Coming up about 6:50, how is that doing? And Elon apparently given the bird, potentially more changes coming to Twitter.
How long you been sitting on that joke?
3 seconds, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just came to me. Some other things that are happening, and we talk about electric vehicles, and I'm supposed to dislike them because we're on a talk show, and most of us are mostly conservative, independent-leaning, what have you, and I just don't. My thing with electric cars is the government is forcing you to do it.
And they're too darn expensive. And a lot of issues. Now, I do believe they haven't overcome those issues yet, but they're going to overcome them, and I do believe that, and people get mad when I say it. It's going to happen. Well, what about the range, and what about this? I know. But the easy thing, listen, we talked about going to the moon, and everybody said, man will never fly to the moon. Man will never fly in airplanes. And they pointed out all the problems, all the roadblocks that would stop man from being transported from L.A. in an airplane to New York. People said, that will never happen. And science found a way. And then we talked about going to outer space, and people said, you cannot do this. It's going to be the same thing with electric cars. They are going to refine the technology, and it will work and will probably be the mainstream, and I don't like it because the government's making it happen. But apparently, we know, I guess, cold weather can be really bad for batteries, and that's one of the big knock on electric cars. And apparently, when it gets too hot, that's not good for batteries either. I don't know what that's like. People are saying, well, see, when it gets hot, then it's a drain on the battery. So you have one group of people, and I don't know enough about cars. I don't. I know where I go to Gap's Automotive Repair Shop. That's what I know about cars. So I don't know what's what, but people are saying, well, yeah, the battery drains because when it's hotter, you're turning on the air conditioning and it's draining the battery. Well, guess what happens, John, when you use the air conditioning in an internal combustion engine? Same thing. You lose fuel efficiency when you turn on your air conditioner, right? Well, hot and cold weather, though, when you're talking batteries, is hard on batteries. No matter if you've got an electric vehicle, you've just got a battery under the hood to start the car with.
Yeah. And here's the other thing I think. Everybody that I've talked to, because it's easy, we sit here and complain about electric vehicles, but I know 3 people that have electric vehicles. They're all Teslas. And I would consider all of these people pretty conservative, intelligent, good people. They like the cars. I have not met an electric vehicle owner that says, "This, I don't like this."
Yeah, but I would say also the people that I know are wealthy enough that they have multiple are wealthy enough that like they were unbothered by the price, first of all, because it's very expensive and it prices a lot of people out of the market. The other thing is, most of these households that I know of that have an electric car also have like a backup car, maybe not, but like, a 2-parent household or something, and they've got another car that just in case the car's not charged or whatever, they've got something else. So,
and that's I think that's another good point too, because I think about the people I know. Yeah, they're all sitting pretty. They all live, in the good zip code in mid-Missouri. But John, here's what I would ask: anybody who has owned an electric car in the audience right now that doesn't like it or didn't like it, or had a bad enough experience that it's just not something you would do again. And I'll tell you, we do have a list of vehicles that are coming. They're going to be discontinued because everything's moving to electric. GM and a lot of other automakers are saying, listen, by 2030, at least 50% of our fleet is going to be electric. That's the way we're going. You have states like California. You're not even going to be allowed to sell a gasoline engine car in California.
But the federal government told us we were all going to have to move to real ID like 10 years ago, and here we are with my old school ID. I mean, is it that? That's what I keep, when I hear those numbers, that's what I think. Like, there's no way we get there.
I hope we don't. But if you have owned an electric vehicle or you own one now, I think it'd be interesting because it's easy. And listen, you see it everywhere. People complain. I like to ask you, and believe me, I am not a fan of electric vehicles. But I ask these people, have you driven one? People that rail on them, have you driven one? Have you owned one? Do you talk to people that own them? And what do they think? It'd be interesting to see what the answers would be. 874-9390. How is the new the much hyped Threads, that offering?
Mixed in the Dow eking out a gain for a 10-day winning streak as investors digested a new batch of earnings reports. Both the Dow and S&P 500 ending in the green for the week.
Coming up, 8:25, Morning Bell. We'll look at your futures, plus some interesting business news. It's business news, a little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you. We'll do that at 8:25. Coming up in the Morning Bell. Welcome to the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Some storms potential today between like 11 and 1, according to Brian Houseworth talking to the National Weather Service in St. Louis, like between 11 and 1. Potential for some storms today. Other than that, apparently mostly sunny, 92 by the time we get into Wednesday, high back up to 100. We've been talking about this is a study. By the way, this is I need to make sure that we are quoting our sources. From Jalopnik, there's an article that's talking about electric vehicles. We know batteries, cold weather, it affects the range of an electric vehicle because of the battery. This article is arguing that it's also too hot for EVs to work when the temperature gets warm. And there's a school of people saying, well, it's because you're running the air conditioner. The air conditioner is now draining the battery just as much as you do get less fuel efficiency when you're driving an internal combustion engine. You turn the AC on.
You're getting fact-checked on the texter.
Right, and I'm having to fact-check the texter. Because you turn on your air conditioning, you get poorer fuel economy, right?
I think so.
Yeah. You roll your windows down, you get poorer fuel economy. Either way, so you get poorer fuel economy either way with an internal combustion. So the fact checks are actually incorrect. You get lower economy on your gas mileage.
I just keep seeing the headline, it's too hot for EVs to work right now. And I'm thinking about those poor people in Arizona. And I'm like, it's too hot for anyone to work right now. They're coming out of their house at 6 a.m. and it's like 97. I mean, there's snow days, but like, honestly, if I wake up and it's 97, I think I'm staying home.
And it's interesting. I saw there was an article in the New York Times, because they love the COVID stuff still. The article, the name of the article in the New York Times was "The Heat is the New COVID" because people are staying inside, not going outdoors because of COVID.
I'm not going. I mean, I remember being really big pregnant with Drew in August in Missouri, and it was like over 100 for a week, and everyone's like, "That must be so miserable." And I was like, "None of y'all aren't pregnant, but you're not outside either. We're all sitting in the air conditioning at over 100." Yeah. But I those people in Arizona, wow, it's crazy.
So I know you're a big fan of the Twitter, and by the way, you can find Stephanie on Twitter at Stephanie S. Bell. Apparently there's more changes coming to Twitter.
Yes. I think a new logo. I can't tell if he's for real. Like, he sometimes jokes about fighting Zuckerberg and this whole thing, this rebrand. I'm like, is he for real?
I'm on Twitter right now, and the normal bird icon that's in the upper left-hand corner when you're looking at it on a desktop computer is an X.
See, I'm on the app, and it's still a bird.
Twitter CEO has hinted that cosmetic changes could be coming as early as yesterday, particularly when he told followers, as soon as we shall bid adieu to the Twitter brand and gradually all the birds. And Hannah, and you can find Hannah on Twitter too.
Yeah, producer_Hannah.
And it's already got the X up instead of the bird.
Well, I feel like this is a publicity stunt because of Threads.
Okay, because Threads is doing really well.
It's not.
Oh, it's not.
But I think, it got the most users, but essentially just because everyone you logged into your Instagram, it's like, go to Threads. And so everyone signed up. The X is really weird too. And if I'm correct, I think someone on the internet tweeted the X at him and he was like, yep, that one. So like, he didn't have like a fancy brand people put this logo together. Obviously it's just an X, but he also it's just like user generated, which I guess that's what you get. You get free design work if you're Elon Musk.
Has anybody tried Threads? 874-9390. You said you tried it.
I'm on it.
Not a lot of folks. It's kind of like Twitter, basically.
I think at some point Elon could do something to make people mad enough that they migrate. But right now, what I'm seeing is people just basically duplicating either their content from Instagram or Twitter back onto Threads, which is like, then why would we be there?
I want to check my Parler and Getter accounts. Can you finish that story, Steph? I want to see how I am.
But I mean,
because that's what everybody. Here's the new social media. Let's all get on it, and they use it. And it's like,
They have the power of Meta and Instagram, and so I think it could withstand. You think, and I think here's where I think it could surpass Twitter. Twitter fired all of their employees. So much of these social media companies invest in things like R&D, and so that way they are out, research and development. They're out in front on some of these changes, so that when somebody new pops up with something like Instagram and Snapchat, Snapchat had filters, Instagram was like instantly ready to add the filters. So if Twitter's not investing in R&D and Threads is, then perhaps they could surpass them just on user interface. I think.
I agree.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
Now, I know there's a bunch of idiots out there, but you need to learn to get a kick out of the idiots. The idiots hate this Jason Aldean song because they hate when we push back against violence. They always get it 180 degrees wrong. These are just weird people. We dismiss them out of hand because they've got no soul. I laugh in their face.
That's Sweaty Teddy, Uncle Ted Nugent, talking about the whole backlash surrounding country artist Jason Aldean. We picked Ted Nugent to talk about Jason Aldean because Ted Nugent happens to be Scott Faughn's favorite classic rocker. Am I off base on that, Scott?
Well, since Ronnie Van Zant died, I guess you're right.
Ted Nugent on Jason Aldean. By the way, Jason Aldean said something at a concert over the weekend here in the Midwest. I just loved what he had to say because he wasn't mean. He was real cool about it, real simplified. Hear what he had to say. We're going to do that for you. Coming up a little bit after 8 o'clock here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
We had to bring, so Scott Faughn, Missouri Times, also hosts the TV show This Week in Missouri Politics. Catch it on the weekends. Because of an interview that Stephanie Bell did with Bill Eigel. What did he say to you that we got to get Scott Faughn on and parse through all this stuff?
It wasn't what he said to me. It was what he said about Ashcroft and Kehoe, I think.
So how much...
Well, we know that Bill Eigel wasn't talking about an electric car because he's too big to fit in one.
So what is it? And by the way, John Marsh is here. There is producer Hannah. My name is Branden Rathert. Something we can do for you, 874-9390, 874-9390. Scott Faughn, Missouri Times. If you want to follow Missouri politics, that's the place to go, Missouri Times. So here it is, Monday, July 24th, still a year from the primaries. Today, on this day, how are you looking at the gubernatorial race here in Missouri, Scott?
This race is going to go one or two ways. You know, it was either going to go Jay Ashcroft was going to walk off with it. He was going to be able to parlay the name ID he inherited from his father in his 2 terms in statewide office and walk off with the race, or it was going to get competitive. And I think we're leaning towards a competitive race. You've got Mike Kehoe, who, the fundraising quarter just ended. An incredible fundraising quarter. He's got over $4 million in the bank already. Jay Ashcroft, frankly, he did start fundraising this quarter. Up to now, his support's kind of came from a couple of large bundlers that have really helped boost his campaign. Got about $2 million on hand. About $1.5 million came from. Now that's not just credit to them. I mean, people don't give large checks somebody thinks going to lose they don't believe in. But this quarter, he raised some money. You could tell he kind of hustled it on his own. Still didn't keep up really with Kehoe or Eigel in fundraising, but definitely was competitive this quarter. Eigel came in. Eigel's got $1 million on hand. And so right now it sets with $4 million for Kehoe, $2 million for Ashcroft, and $1 million for Eigel. The surprise has been Eigel. He's running a great campaign. Eigel will just attack folks. And his biggest problem he has right now in raising money is people think he'll run for something else. He won't actually run for governor. If he convinces people he's running for governor, Bill Eigel's going to be a serious threat in this race.
And I want to ask you, we talk about the money. I want to explain this in layman's terms. We've got a lot of younger listeners, newer to politics, and we talk about, the campaign money. Why does the amount of money mean? Well, they can buy more advertising, more TV, more radio ads. But it's a lot more than just buying advertising. Talk about a minute, Scott, where that money goes to and why that campaign fundraising is so important.
Well, I think, just personally for Scott and Branden, Branden needs new flip-flops, and that money goes to buy time on the Eagle and KWOS to get their message out. And, I will never drive an electric car because I listen to Jason Aldean. I don't think Jason Aldean songs will play in an electric car. So I may need a new F-150. You may need new flip-flops. That money goes to buy advertising time on our outlets and stuff. Uh-huh. And it's a huge deal. It gets there's just something you could go and argue all the newfangled technologies. And I personally think Elon Musk has made Twitter worse. I like Elon Musk, but it's just a worse product now. But you can do all the social media stuff. There's just nothing at the end of the day when you want to win a race. No fooling, no messing around. You go, I think for every Republican, you go to rural radio. It's the best value you could have. And then you got to buy some of that TV time. And that's just, you can do all the newfangled stuff you want. And I think a lot of it actually is effective and it's probably the future. But you want that message out, you go to broadcast TV, broadcast radio, and that costs money.
So it's money for marketing, but the other thing, you hire people. Those people organize. Then you hire volunteers, whatever, to go out onto the streets. And so it's manpower. It's people out on the streets carrying your name out there, trying to campaign on your behalf. Our guest, he has Missouri Times, also the TV show this week in Missouri Politics. You want to know Missouri Politics, MissouriTimes.com. Scott Faughn joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Scott, talk to us about when we start getting into the ad season and the campaigns and all. Do you think there are people out there, like some of us in the media, when we see, I don't know, the major candidates in their work clothes, or standing on a farm, or standing next to an excavator, or whatever, do they buy into that, or do they see it for what it is?
You know, John, I think folks have a sense in their gut of what's real and what ain't real. You know what I mean? And now, obviously, you get a guy like Eric Greitens, a world-class talent politician. He could probably, or Bill Clinton, they could probably convince you of stuff that your gut ain't quite sold on. But you go to most folks, like Mike Kehoe on a horse, he actually rides horses, like legitimately he does. So I think that looks natural. I think he can pull that off. I think if you put me on a horse, it would look ridiculous. And I would look like a phony horse rider trying to ride a horse to impress you. And I think folks in their gut, I mean, these guys, it's almost like I got a lot of friends in organized labor, and a buddy of mine said, hey, if it says pipe fitter, those guys are plumbers. They're not political strategists. They're not, professional broadcasters. They're pipe fitters. And I think with politicians, these are not great actors for the most part. They are what they are. And I think if Bill Eigel talks about building a small business, he can legitimately say that. I think Jay Ashcroft wears a suit to bed. So when he's in a suit, wherever he's at, that's natural to him. That's what he actually does. And I think these guys, again, they're not Leonardo DiCaprio here. They're guys that have a background that usually isn't in acting, and the more genuine they are, I think the better it comes off. I guess it's like radio, right? A smart guy told me radio is being yourself and turning the volume up 10%.
Scott Faughn is joining us this morning. This week in Missouri Politics, Missouri Times, hanging out with us on the show.
Brandon, thank you so much. Scott brings up a very good point about the rural radio, because the base of the Missouri Republican Party is outstate. There's no question about that.
Oh, and they forget it. Brian, isn't it the saddest thing?
It's that's where the votes are. There's no question, and I
give so much power to the suburban folks, though. They just run over the rural people. I mean, terrible.
Outstate.
It's becoming it's a party of F-150 drivers that for some reason wants to be led by Prius drivers. Yeah. I've never understood it. It's black coffee drinkers and whiskey drinkers and now I guess Busch Light drinkers wanting to be ran by Prius drinkers from the suburbs. They just rural folks like backbone a lot of times, and we suffer from it very much in this state.
We're short on time, Scott. Just a really quick question about Sarah Unsicker running for Attorney General. Does she have a chance? Because she's been very active on Twitter.
Is this campaign just done for my amusement? I think it might be. No, she has no chance to win the general election. Listen, a woman in a Democrat primary, that Eli Gross, I like Sarah Unsicker because she really does know her stuff. I like Eli Gross because the old boy is the hardest working young man you'll run into. But no, they'll both get destroyed. Sarah could win the primary because, frankly, Democrat voters prefer to vote for a woman if they can. So she could win the primary, but no, it's an intramural game I'm not sure it's not just done for my amusement, because it is uproariously awesome on Twitter. And you should follow Sarah Unsicker, whether you're a left-wing person wanting to fire about turning the state around, or you're a right-wing person who loves good comedy. It is, and Republicans interact with her and get all serious about it. I love her Twitter account. It's one of the reasons I still love Twitter.
Now, I think on your show this last weekend, Senator Andrew Koenig announced for treasurer. We spoke with Cody Smith last week, who made an announcement that same day. Of course, our sitting treasurer will be the incumbent in that race. That puts 3 people, and they're geographically diverse. Let's see. I think Koenig is from St. Louis. Treasurer Malik is from Cape Girardeau, and then we've got Cody Smith from Carthage. How does that shake out in that race?
Well, Stephanie, when me and you talk hogs, dogs, and logs, we just tell it like it is. Vivek Malik is from India, and one of the most personable, charming people you'd ever meet. However, I'll tell you, his name not being a traditional American name, nobody, I guarantee you, if we went over to Menards today and went in the lumber section, nobody would know there was a state treasurer. I think Vivek has an advantage. He's going to out-fundraise everybody. The guy can raise money. His Rolodex works. The Indian American community nationally kind of comes together behind candidates like a Bobby Jindal, Nikki Haley, and Vivek is tapping that network very effectively. There's a real sense of pride in that community to have somebody that's Indian American in a statewide office like that, as there should be. Cody Smith will raise money as budget chair. Andrew Canning is just a hard-working dude, man. He's been all over every single aspect of the legislation. Any important bill, Andrew's in the back room quietly negotiating. His word's gold. He'll raise some money. I think both of them in the race helps Vivek Malik. I think Vivek will have enough money to get his name out. And then, there's going to be some skullduggery, no question. Vivek will be the front runner, so he'll get attacked. Some of those attacks will sink easier because of his background, frankly, right or wrong. That's just how it is. I think Vivek in a one-on-one matchup with either of those two would be in more danger than a three-way. I think with a one-on-one is a pretty close race. A three-way race, I think Vivek Malik has the advantage. And, if you're Vivek Malik, you ought to be like, hey, who else wants to run? Tony Luetkemeyer, why don't you hop in? You want more the merrier jumping in.
Well, that was my next question. With 3 people in, does it invite others to jump in?
I think if you're a person, take Tony Luetkemeyer, right? He put in for the Supreme Court last week, but let's say he's not picked. Both of those Supreme Court vacancies will be picked before Thanksgiving, I assume. So plenty of time to file. If you're Luetkemeyer, you can fundraise, you got a war chest, you're a good politician, you're slick on the stump, you have a lot of connections. Do you want to be the 4th person in that race? I think one-on-one, Vivek Malik is somebody a ambitious politician could say, I'm going to take him on because he was appointed, he didn't win. And there's some advantages, reasons why you'd want to take him on maybe. That doesn't exist in a 3-way race, and it sure don't in a 4-way race. Because I bet you Vivek Malik banks $4 million before it's over. I'll bet he's got a lot of time on the Eagle and KWOS before it's over with. And I think you could take that on one-on-one. I think the more people that get in, the better it is for Vivek. And I don't think your top-tier people who are weighing options, I don't think they jump in that race.
Scott Faughn, Missouri Times. Some stories on there right now. You can see video this week in Missouri Politics. Parson praised for increased child care reimbursements. A lot of cool stuff. MissouriTimes.com. Scott, we always appreciate when you find time to hang out with us.
I love it, and God bless you all, and hope he takes care of everybody so they can drive a good old gas-powered F-150 like me, and they don't have to settle for an electric car.
Scott Faughn. Coming up, we're going to be doing What's Hot with Hannah.
It's an update to a story that Stephanie actually did in the Morning Bell a couple weeks ago about Burger King.
All right, so an update on a story that's been covered previously. Hot with Hannah.
Real quick, I do have to tell you, Brandon, that Stephanie and John both had separate days last week where they got to What's Hot with Hannah at 7:24.
Really?
Yeah.
How about that? So
I was banking time for the other 2 days that I was late.
Well, Stephanie, you didn't have to tell him that part.
Oops.
7:24-ish, which works as 7:25.
Yeah, I mean, it all works out, right? Stephanie did a story, was it last week, the week before last, about the real cheeseburger from Burger King Thailand.
Got 27 pieces of American cheese on it.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it was 20 pieces of American cheese on a bun, and apparently it was wildly popular because it's sold out. So Burger King Thailand put their heads together. They said, what else can we do that's weird? And they basically are doing the real meat burger, and it comes standard with 3 hamburger patties, and you can basically upcharge an unlimited amount to just keep adding patties. And there was a influencer from Thailand who was like, I'm going to test this out. And he ordered 100 of these patties. And sitting on the counter, the burger's like taller than he is.
Yes.
And it was like a $300 burger when it was all said and done. So that's crazy. But Burger King Thailand is now rolling with it, I guess. And they did like a spoof tweet. And they're saying, have it your way. And it's just a bunch of random ingredients on a bun. Like a huge pile of pickles or nothing but tomato slices.
Ugh.
And yeah, it's just satire for now, but I won't be surprised if it actually rolls out.
So I always think whenever people do these, the obnoxious menu items or this giant burger or this or that, which you can find in a lot of restaurants, eat our, famous burger that's 27-ounce burger or whatever. People, I guess, really sit and do it. Not because they're hungry, but because they want their name up on, they want the recognition. I would guess.
And they do it for the gram, like the Grimace shake. Apparently, you can go to McDonald's and get that weird purple shake, but don't you have to order the Happy Meal or something? But like, you just want your picture with the shake.
Well, and there was like a weird TikTok trend. I never could figure out what the point was, but the trend was people would do a video of them drinking the Grimace shake, and then the next shot would be them like pretending to have been murdered or disappeared. I never could figure out where that came from, but
I see it. Yeah. Was the Grimace like a criminal?
I don't know. I never could figure out where the trend came from.
Grimace was a character in a series of McDonald's television commercials over the years, Steph.
I know, but like that.
Did you just boomer-splain her?
The Hamburglar was like a criminal,
he was a
right?
thief, yeah.
Yeah.
Never did go to prison, by the way.
What was Grimace? He looks like kind of like Barney. This is big purple,
it's like a
silly
purple
guy.
chicken nugget is what he looks like to me.
That's a good question. What is Grimace? What was besides being a character?
A better question is, what's in the Grimace shake?
But no, sometimes when I go to order my coffee, I feel like the list of, modifications that I make is obnoxiously long.
I'm sure it is. You're a Gen Z.
Coming up just a few minutes from now, that's What's Hot with Hannah. Do it every morning, 7:25-ish. Coming up, Missouri is home to the Midwest's very first Randy Tobler's show, but he's been saying this for a while. Hannity's been saying, listen, Republicans, you want to win, you're going to have to start embracing some of these other things. He asked Trump. Trump did say, yes, I can embrace that stuff. How do you feel about that? 874-9390 is our text. Because the other big issues, it's the economy, right? Stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the economy. As a matter of fact, CNN was chatting with Nancy Pelosi, and CNN's Dana Bash going, well, Joe Biden has accomplished all this, which they're all lies, all right? He's accomplished all this. Why isn't he getting credit for it? And a lot of people are asking, he's done, a lot of liberals, he's done all these great things. He's picked a woman to do this and all this and this. What? The economy, how come he's not getting credit? Because the reality is, when people, in my mind, when people go shopping and they're buying gasoline, they're buying groceries, they're paying their bills at the end of the month, maybe once in a while they're getting online, checking their 401k, and they're seeing what's happened since the tragic events of January 20th, 2021. They've seen what's happened, and that is the reality. That's why he's not getting credit, because he does not deserve any credit.
Well, and you don't get credit if you caused the dip in the first place. And so it's like if my husband went out and spent $1,000 on the roulette table and was like, then he's like, well, hey, guess what? I made back, $700. I'd be like, yeah, but you lost the money in the first place. And I told you I about got the other, I checked my 401k quarterly and I checked it this last cycle and I thought, oh my goodness, we had a good quarter. And I think I was just so shocked that it was finally going up that I was like, wow.
So and you said it was a good quarter.
Yeah.
But
then I went back historically and looked, and I'm still behind. All the money that I've lost, I still haven't made it back up. So yeah, I'm not giving Joe Biden credit. Yeah, the last couple months have been okay, but I'm still behind. And I look at all of those Trump years and just everything going up and up and up and up until basically COVID. But I'm thinking, where would my 401k be? Where would my personal budget be? Where would the price of my grapes be if I didn't have to endure Joe Biden?
I remember saying, John, during those 4 years here on the show, legitimately, yeah, I like Trump, but I could put it up to the cameras. By the way, you can watch our show anytime you want.
Yeah, you can watch us on YouTube or Facebook at Wake Up in Missouri.
And I would gladly hold up
Give us a peace sign, Brandon. Come on. Smile for the camera.
401k.
You're going to hold up your 401k?
I would hold that stuff up and say, listen, since Trump has been president, since he was sworn into office in 2017, look at what's happening to my 401k. Look what's happening to my savings. And I did that the entire 4 years, John, while Trump was president. I could point to that stuff. I assumed he was going to be president for 8 years. And I think like a lot of other Americans, we had this great hope, man, things are, economically we're getting good and we have a better presence on the worldwide stage now. We command respect. People ain't messing with us. And now just none of that stuff is true anymore.
I think for a lot of people, other than the obvious, like you talked about with $15 a pound deli meat and Hannah's expensive grapes, I think there's a lot of fear out there, too, about our security of the nation with the Chinese and the Russian stuff and everything else.
And that word security, and not just like in terms of defense or national security, but really... and Hannah, tell me if I'm getting a little too weird and cheesy here. But don't we all ultimately, we just want to be okay? We want to feel okay. We want to be okay with where we are in life. We want that security. We want that well-being.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all we want, really. And I don't need a bunch of money to have security and well-being. I don't have to have things. I just want security and well-being. And I got to tell you, man, as a 52-year-old dude, I felt that when Trump was president. I could see my economic outlook, and I was better off 4 years prior to him. And now I see the exact opposite, and it's traceable to January 20th, 2021. That's why he's not getting credit, because he doesn't understand the reality, I think, of what people are really feeling. I mean, you've got a 23-year-old college grad buying $15 grapes that she can't afford.
Well, and that we want to be able to provide that security for ourselves. We don't want the government to have to provide it for us. So I heard this morning that now he's not only after our dishwashers, but apparently his rules after our portable gas generators. And I'm every once in a while, I get a little bit out there and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go off the grid and I'm going to do my own thing. And now and I thought, portable gas generators, that is a step too far. If I want to go to the woods, or I don't know, I should be able to do that.
Water heaters. They're starting to go after water heaters. And John, their accomplishment. Oh, look, we nominated a female for this very important military position. That's beautiful. I don't care that she's a chick or not. Can she do the job, do you think? Even though Lloyd Austin, the guy you appointed really to do that job, vehemently disagreed with your pick, Joe. All right? You did it anyway, which is great, but that's the important stuff to Democrats. Well, we got a woman this, we got a black one of these, and this and that, and you'd identify me by what I think I am. No.
But, yeah. And you talk about feeling secure. I mean, those things are used in emergencies. Like, I want to be able to provide for myself and my family in an emergency. We've seen the federal government in an emergency fall down on the job. It's absolutely ridiculous. But I mean, going back to what you said, Brandon, that word security, and every day of the Biden presidency, I think I feel less secure.
Yeah, it really is.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with the generators. We think back to the height of the pandemic and the widespread protests and all, and I think the far left went out and pretty much propped up the gun industry, didn't they?
Yeah. By the way, the city of Columbia, they have a big meeting tonight, and this is regarding like Airbnbs. If you want to rent out your home, they want control of that. They want to get their money because that's for example, we talk about Joe Biden. They want to go after your gas stoves, and that's a fact. They want to go after your water heaters. That's a fact. And you see how this progressivism runs rampant. It's not just a national thing. You can look to the town of Columbia. They want to get some of your money. You're renting out your bedroom. You're renting out your home to folks that are willing to give you money so they can stay at your place. Columbia, they want to cut it at. The other thing they're doing, we got this ARPA money because of the government pandemic, and so Columbia, which is flush with well over 100 parks they can barely take care of, despite the fact that they have 3 revenue streams. Now they're going to take. So what do you do for a government pandemic? What do you do to make up to all the businesses that you shut down, that you screwed, the people's paychecks that you took away when you limited all these businesses? It was not a pandemic of COVID. It was a pandemic of government. It was a pandemic of decisions made by human beings that ruined people. These decisions had nothing to do with COVID. It had to do with people making decisions. Look at the school kids right now. We keep talking about the test. Man, there were people saying 3 years ago, listen, if you shut kids out of school, man, here's what's going to happen. And Stephanie, by all accounts, it is happening. We're doing these stories about test scores and more kids going for mental health care because of what happened in their very formative years because they were told to stay home. There were people saying all these things are going to happen, and they did it.
It's awful. And, I had an experience this summer where it really hit home for me. I took my kids to a camp that they've gone to and that my oldest has gone to, but it was the first year that my middle kid had gone to. And her age, she was the one that had COVID in kindergarten. And so, those first couple years really struggled. And at the end of the camp, the woman who leads the camp, who's led that camp for 30 years, who knows kids, who knows education, stood up and said, parents, we have some work to do. We have some work to do. This is different. And I can tell. She was like, I wish I had your kids for 2 to 3 more weeks because we've got an issue. And the fact that she could see it, I want to sit down. I haven't had a chance yet, but I want to sit down and have a conversation and say, what did you see and what can I do to try to change it? And that was heartbreaking to hear that, it's noticeable. And I'm sure, that, but to have her say not only on just test scores, but just she can see it and feel it in just spending a week with the kids. It's hard to hear.
When you're hearing her say that, like as a mom, I think the world of your kids. I'm guessing you probably like your kids even more than I do. How did that make you feel when you have somebody else that's saying this stuff to you?
It's heartbreaking. I don't know that we can ever get it back or how we account for that. And I think too, and I know she didn't mean it like this. It kind of feels like a knock on me because guess who was the teacher during that time, right? Or, and at the time I'm trying to run my businesses, put food on the table and be the teacher. And, I know I didn't do a great job. I felt like I did as the best that I could, but I also know that my kids probably had it better than a lot of kids. And so, that we were doing everything we had family support around, and my kids are, behind like everyone else is, but I wonder what about those kids who, didn't have anybody at home or couldn't have anybody at home or don't have grandparents or, around that could also try to help out.
And that's why I always say, man, like if you know somebody, and we do get a few people that will text us some of the conversations knowing everything that we just talked about that was all done by, these were, and I hate to make it political, but these were Democrats. It's that mind thinking that they have this same mindset. They vote Democrat. And then here we are. And I wonder, when you sit and talk to a Democrat, like all of these things that we've just laid out that's just happened, whether it's the economy, whether it's calling somebody something that they're not and lying to yourself and lying to the world and rainbows and unicorns and the kids. We said several years ago, don't keep these kids out of schools and all this stuff. You present these facts to somebody and you ask them, how can you still vote for a Democrat? How? I would love to hear what you're saying. And the other thing people are talking about is the question we asked earlier. What the hell is Grimace from McDonald's? And we're getting a bunch of texts that are explaining what Grimace is.
A lot of texts. Apparently, it's undecided or there's an ongoing debate. He's either, right? This is like, I mean, it's just blowing up. Let's
do this. Can we wait for a few minutes? And reveal the answer.
If you think you know, text in because we're taking a vote.
874-9390. Are you
Grimace's pronouns?
We can only be serious for so long, guys.
How do I identify Grimace? The answer coming up on the area's most conservative talk show.
Ending mixed and the Dow eking out a gain for a 10-day winning streak as investors digested a new batch of earnings reports. Both the Dow and S&P 500 ending in the green for the week.
That's for Friday, coming up 8:25. Morning Bell. We'll look at stock futures, and we're going to do in the Morning Bell business news with a little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Nice to meet you. I'm Branden Rathert. I want to introduce you to my friend, Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
She's a mom to 3. She is a wife. She is a business owner. She's a high-profile attorney here in the state of Missouri. And then my other friend over here is producer Hannah. She is a 23-year-old college grad from the University of Missouri who is on a roller coaster ride while she tries to figure out what Joe wants to do with her student loan debt, and she has a degree in agriculture, and I've been knowing her since she was 15 years old. That's producer Hannah.
Hello.
John Marsh, crusty old friend of mine. Sports.
Crusty.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and I get it, man. You've been doing journalism here in mid-Missouri for 30 years. You carry a lot of respect and weight in this town, and that is much deserved.
I've got socks that are 30 years old.
John's got socks that are 30 years old, T-shirts that are 15, probably pairs of underwear that's 10 years old, probably Fruit of the Loom, I would imagine. Not that I've ever imagined what kind of underwear you wear, John. But he's been here for 30 years. He, too, an Air Force brat, much like I am. I'm going to introduce you to my friend, John Marsh. Good morning, John.
Hola.
Oui. And my name is Branden. I'm just some dude from the Midwest. All right, so 8:25 Morning Bell. I don't know if you heard, so Jason Aldean, of course, the song, and by the way, I listened.
How could you have not heard?
I know, right? I listened to that song for the first time because I was up in the mountains in Idaho and, no signal on my cell phone mountains. And so I'd seen some of the stuff about the song, and then I listened to the song, and I'm like, it's kind of a beautiful song. It's not like what I expected. I don't know if you heard what he said over the weekend at one of his concerts. We have that audio. Hear that coming up at 8:10. Right now, we're answering one of the big questions. Stephanie asked a question this morning where I don't even know how we got there. We got talking about Grimace from McDonald's and poll numbers between DeSantis and Trump. But we got talking about Grimace. Stephanie asked, what is Grimace? And
the texter lit up.
874-9390. I don't know how many of these we can actually share. Apparently, bottom line is, Steph, Grimace is a swollen taste bud? Is that like the best? Is that accurate?
That's what some people say.
That sounds disgusting. but John, if it's a swollen taste bud that's been selling burgers for 50 years, I guess it works.
McDonald's at one point said he's the embodiment of a milkshake, but then why is he purple? Like, milkshake should be like chocolate or vanilla.
Well, they've got the purple Grimace shakes right now, don't they?
Gross. I know, but like a traditional milkshake, I don't. When you look at a upside down purple triangle man, do you think milkshake? No.
And then we have people like Kenny who just say, Grimace is Ronald McDonald's best friend and is a big purple blob.
And then Dan says, I'm out. I hope you all have a great day. Dan, thank you for your text.
Julie says Grimace is a male purple people eater, which is maybe why people were dead on the TikTok videos after drinking a Grimace shake. That was my question. There's a TikTok trend where you drink the shake and then you pretend like you're dead. And I'm like, was he scary or like a murderer or what?
You guys haven't read Rick's text yet.
Oh, well, we did.
Just not on air. Is Rick talk? Oh, yeah.
Rick, that's just wrong.
But what's funny is we all know what he's talking about. We're all going, oh, yeah, it sure does look like one of those. Gosh. 874-9390, 874-9390. Anybody, did you take your girls see the Barbie movie over the weekend?
No. We went to the Ashland fireworks, and they were awesome.
They killed like over an hour, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was pretty substantial.
It was right there
show.
Behind the YMCA, and they just kept going and going and going. And, it's only a couple years old in a small town, and I kind of thought, I'll be happy no matter what. But, man,
it was impressive.
Awesome.
Not to be too cranky, but that's way too long for a fireworks show. I would be so bored after about 30 minutes.
It was a little bit long, but then sometimes you could see the people actually lighting them or holding the firework, which made it a little bit more exciting. Also, we did hear some Jason Aldean. I'm just gonna say this weekend.
Well, we're gonna hear what Jason Aldean did at one of his concerts over the weekend. Folks saying one of his songs, Try That.
U.S. Congressman, a freshman from Missouri. We got our job done. It's up to the Senate. If they don't get it done, that's on them.
Mark Alford on the National Defense Authorization Act. Mark Alford on the show last week. A couple of highlights of some of the things that he talked about.
Yeah, I mean, that was good. And then he also gave a speech with the Israeli president being in town. So he had some floor time for that. And then we asked him, we had a guest on Monday talking about the folks who wanted to add flights to DCA, which ultimately failed, but and that was part of the FAA Authorization Act, and he kind of detailed some of the other provisions in there that might be helping travelers going forward.
Marsh, how's Mr. Matt Blunt doing?
He's doing good. He was here and we had him on the air with us, reminisced a little bit with the former governor before he had an appointment with his portrait unveiling at the state capitol on Friday.
Yeah, and we should mention something else that did not get a lot of media attention that I did not know, and Stephanie, I don't know if you knew either, but Cam IZ had a camera at the ceremony, and according to what they quoted him as saying, is that Melanie, his wife, had a mild stroke, and that was why she was not and I did not know that. So my mother's had I know what a mild stroke is, but our thoughts and prayers are with her, and I hope she recovers. But I was thrilled he was able to come on, Brandon. He did. He came out and did a good job.
And we weren't sure who was going to be there. I mean, I did notice that she wasn't there, but I believe Senator Blunt was there.
He was there.
Yeah.
So was Andy, and so was Amy and Branch.
You know what else doesn't get a lot of coverage? Whenever somebody protects their home, somebody breaks into their house, and the homeowners happen to be gun owners, and they're able to either shoot and kill the people who were trying. And I'm not joking about killing somebody, but sometimes it happens.
Sure.
But to protect themselves. In McDonald County, Missouri, it's almost Oklahoma. A couple comes home, there's a dude in their house robbing it, and he points a gun, and the husband and wife team, both armed, and they shoot the dude twice.
Wow.
But and I'm laughing. Hey, you break into somebody's house, right? Every choice you make in life has consequences. I don't care the dude got shot. Twice, as a matter of fact. But I wish these stories would get more hype. And I don't know if it would deter criminals, but if you got stories like this, number one, that's why one of the reasons we arm ourselves, to protect ourselves, because you have prosecutors nationwide that certainly won't do it. You have a prosecutor in St. Louis who's without a job today because she wasn't doing her job. You have prosecutors in San Francisco that won't do anything. As a matter of fact, now in Kansas City, Save-A-Lot, 2 different Save-A-Lots in Kansas City, 2 hours to our west. 2 Save-A-Lots are closing their doors.
Wow.
Anybody want to guess why they're having to close the Save-A-Lots in Kansas City? Crime. And they won't prosecute them. This, according to Fox 4 Kansas City. 2 Save-A-Lots. They're closing. It's becoming like San Francisco because you get these progressive DAs. They're more worried about race and are you a lesbian and are you this and are you that. Second, I wonder if they ask anywhere on these applications, oh, and by the way, can you prosecute crimes? You know, because you check this box, you check that box. I wonder if they're asking these, but can you do this job? They're not doing it. So now it's happening even in Kansas City. I heard this also happened. By the way, kudos. I heard we had a huge guest on the show last week.
All right. Well, we are also anti-mask here at Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Up next, we will have Miranda Lambert.
Miranda Lambert, how was she on the show?
You know, she was so lovely.
Was she?
Except she didn't want us to take selfies with her, so we have no evidence of her actually being here.
I heard lipstick on a coffee cup in the green room is about it.
I heard if you go to a Miranda Lambert concert, she doesn't like it when you're having a good time. Apparently.
Correct.
She'll call you out in front of 18,000 other fans. Somebody, I guess, was taking a selfie at her concert, and she stopped down and everything.
Yeah. Stop the song.
I told Stephanie, I was like, it's a good thing Brandon's not like that because he'd have to stop the show like 20 times a day with Stephanie taking her selfies over there.
By the way, my other friend I didn't get a chance to introduce you to because he was out in the green room, Brian Hausworth, also been in journalism, 30 years here, mid-Missouri, went to school at Lindenwood, growed up in St. Louis, and got his start in radio by bugging the local sports talk station to see if he could get on and talk about the Cardinals.
That's exactly right, and spot on, and enjoyed it. Great to have you back, Brandon, and welcome back. And I think you bring up a very good point about that case in McDonald County. without question, Noel.
This is where the couple came home, house being robbed. They shot the dude.
Yeah, Noel, and you're right. It's right on the Oklahoma-Missouri border. That is a deep, deep red county. That is, I mean, I don't know that there are any Democrats down there left.
But I wish.
Well, they shot him.
They shot, yeah. and I wish these stories would get hyped in the national news outlets. Here's what it's about. Here is a married couple protecting everything that they have worked for. They were protecting their palace. They were protecting their home. John says it was apparently a Democrat that was apparently trying to take that from them because that's what. But isn't that a Democrat thing? I'm not going to work for my own stuff. I'm going to wait for Joe to hand out the cash. I'm going to wait for Joe to hand me my pay off my student loans. Wouldn't a Democrat break into somebody's house and take what's not theirs if we're going to make this political?
The only other time I remember that McDonald County making national news, and it was for a pretty heinous crime, a bank president in Noel, Noel, was actually abducted, tied to a chair, and thrown. And people that are from there will remember this. He was thrown off a bridge and drowned. It was horrific. And Robert Stack actually came to McDonald County from Unsolved Mysteries and did a story. I believe one of them got executed, and the other one I think died in prison. But that county doesn't hardly have any media outlets, so that I'm surprised there may be a little paper down there. I'm surprised that got picked up because there's just few journalists left in that county because I'm not even sure the radio station's in existence anymore.
Ozarksfirst.com is the source for this story. Yeah, but I just wish that the national news outlets would say, see, here's what happened when you protect yourself, and let it be a warning to criminals. If you go and try to break into somebody's house, they might be armed. They might shoot your ass, man. Don't do that stuff. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri, 874-9390. Jason Aldean making news, too. By the way, has anybody listened? What's the setup with this story? He's got a song. People are, oh, my God, it's racist. It's in front of a courthouse. It's got some racist histories. And he's saying, don't try this in a small town. We know what he means. He's talking about black people. What happened here?
I think that
Pretty
was
much
just
it.
Well, the song, I believe, was released in May. And people didn't really have too much of an issue with it until the music video came out. And I believe he was using clips from BLM protests.
He's using news clips.
Yeah.
Everything that he has used, there is not. So I had kind of heard bits and pieces all week while I was gone, came back and then listened to the song. I'm like, it's actually kind of a pretty song. It's a good song. In the video, it shows news clips from factual events, BLM protesters blocking traffic, BLM and other protesters assaulting people. There's nothing inaccurate. That is all factual. And it took people a while, as Hannah aptly pointed out, because that's what I really envision. That's what a lot of these people do. We talk about Fred Perry and how he refers to the Columbia dudes, the Righteous Brothers. All of a sudden, I forget their names, but they sit around and they look, what can I be upset about today? That's what I...
It's like the Righteous Brothers locally.
Brothers. Yeah. What can I be upset about today? And these people and this song, and don't try that in a small town. Oh, we know what he means. He means a white town. That's what he means. Here's a part of the song. It's actually a pretty nice song.
Sucker punch somebody on the sidewalk.
I don't find anything offensive about that. And he's showing news clips of all spitting in a cop's face, carjacking people, shooting, and he's showing news clips of that stuff. Oh, it's racist. It's factual. So I guess he'd been called a lot of things over the weekend. Cincinnati, Friday night. This is Jason Aldean.
It's been a long week, and I've seen a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of stuff suggesting I'm this, suggesting I'm that. Hey, here's the thing. Here's one thing I feel. I feel like everybody's entitled to their opinion. You can think something all you want to. It doesn't mean it's true, right? So, what I am is a proud American. I'm proud to be from here. I love our country. I want want to see it restored to what it once was before all this bullshit started happening to us. I love my country, I love my family, and I will do anything to protect that. I can tell you that right now.
Friday night in Cincinnati, and here's what I love about this so far. He wasn't rude. He didn't bait anybody. It's not like he was on Threads calling out people. Is anybody on Threads still?
I am.
He wasn't on Threads calling people
lonely.
out. Huh?
I'm feeling lonely on Threads.
Threads not doing as well as it did when it first
No, his comments gave me chills.
Yeah.
Really?
I thought it was some pretty shrewd marketing, the whole deal myself.
Some shrewd marketing? Tell us about your theory, John, but let me get you an aluminum foil hat first.
No, I think he's just selling a whole lot more records than he might have otherwise.
So some of his concerts that weren't sold out since this has happened, boom, they're selling out. He's selling more records. Morgan Wallen, when he used the N-word while hanging out with buds on the street, what happened? He had the #1 selling album of the year. But here's why I appreciate what Jason Aldean is saying. He's not being mean. He's not calling those people names. Listen, you're entitled to your opinion. What you think, I'm telling you, is wrong. I'm not like this. And I love my country. He's not being mean. He's not calling anybody out. And, yeah, I get the chills because then the crowd starts chanting USA. And he's not apologizing. And here's why I appreciate that. He has, in my mind, he has nothing to apologize for. It's because these weak-minded people get upset about stuff. And that's what happens. We keep seeing these people, they think they've offended. I'm sorry. No, apologize if it's necessary. If you really feel like you've wronged somebody, then, yeah, apologize. And that's hard to do sometimes because you get pressure. Well, you should apologize. No, I shouldn't. I didn't do anything wrong. Your feelings may have been hurt. Not my intent. I regret that your feelings are hurt, but that's not on me. That's on you. You take ownership of that. That's why I appreciate that. And like you, Steph, it's like, yeah, I got some chills.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of folks in mid-Missouri. Like I said, I heard it playing this weekend in Ashland. I saw some videos of people playing it at the lake. A lot of people are requesting the song, and I think rightfully so. I think there is a difference between living in a small town and living in a liberal city, and I think the folks that live in a small town are proud of that, and this song kind of embodies that.
Try that stuff in Taos or Brazito or Centralia or Ashland. Try that stuff in Sturgeon. Try that stuff in Owensville and these other small towns.
Well, yeah, and I mean, the same lyrics. I mean, Riley Green's like different round here. We could pull that one up. I mean, this theme has been done before. Like this theme is something that we've heard time and time again in country music. And, it just caught. It's the music video, right?
Can I bump her out with Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion? Is it the WAP song?
I know
that everybody
worship and praise.
Okay, I won't bump her out with that song.
The golden rule, Rathert.
Right. Remember when everybody got upset about that song, talking about women's anatomy on top 40 stations that 13 and 14-year-old kids were listening to? And remember the outcry on that song and the backlash? What? No? Coming up, we're going to be doing Morning Bell Business News. Little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you.
Is it Barbieheimer? Apparently the box office is back. I'm not buying it. Are you?
I don't know. We'll find out. Morning Bell, 5 minutes from now. Morning, 8:26 time for the Morning Bell. Business news with a little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
It is officially Barbieheimer or Barbenheimer. I'm not sure that it's actually been decided.
So the two big movies coming out this weekend, you had the Barbie movie and then the Oppenheimer movie, and apparently...
The what movie?
The other one.
Yeah, it's, when's the last time you went to a movie?
Well, is it Oppenheimer or Oppenheimer? And I should know this. Oppen. I've been in the mountains, no cell phone signal for a week. I've mispronounced.
Oh, come on. Even if you weren't in the mountains for the last week.
Jason Aldean, Vivek Ramaswamy. So I'm on a roll with mispronouncing these names.
All good. The futures are feeling good about all your mispronunciations. They are in the green this morning, and we are rolling as the market is about to open. So Barbie beat out Oppenheimer, earning $155 million. It was only expected to do $90 to $110 million, but they've taken over the marketing of everything. So I wonder if that's what gave them the push, or if this kind of dual promotion of both movies pushed them over the edge, because Oppenheimer actually also outperformed. They were thinking originally it would earn $50 million. It was at 80.5, so still well behind Barbie, but better than expected. But it's kind of, a lot of people are doing a deep dive back into what other movies debuted on the same day. Dark Knight and Mamma Mia was a really popular one. And so, you're thinking, if you're Oppenheimer, wouldn't you want to be on a weekend that's not Barbie's? You could be like number one, but at the same time, maybe debuting with Barbie pushed you over the edge. And I've seen some speculation of like, if there's kind of a girly movie and a more manly movie, then like everyone can do like split up and do girls weekend, guys weekend, and also like more of a family friendly movie and an adult movie. So then maybe you send the kids to Barbie and then you go see. And so like as rather than parents like us, like being like, okay, we can have a date night or we can take the kids. You could do both at once if you've got both movies playing. So I think both movies benefited from this like dual action in the box office, but I don't think, I think it's an anomaly. I don't think it's a comeback for the box office.
I saw that the Oppenheimer movie is like 3 hours long. Did anybody else see that?
I didn't.
And Barbie's over 2 hours. So for those people who had an Barbieheimer weekend or whatever you want to call it, who has 5 hours on a nice, and the weather was gorgeous this weekend in Missouri. Who's going to spend 5 hours in the movie theater?
Who can afford to?
Oh, that's true.
So Margot Robbie is doing what Tom Cruise has not been able to do this summer with his latest Mission Impossible movie.
coming from each direction.
That's Ethan Lee, chat with our news partners, ABC 17. That following that incredible boat crash. This story about this boat crash making national news in USA Today and Fox News Today. What happened? This was at the lakes. What happened exactly, John?
8 people ended up in the hospital. This was a boat being driven by a man from the state of California. They were on the 1.3-mile marker of the Osage Arm late that night. Basically, out of control, ran aground, hit the home, then overturned, and all the 8 people on board were thrown out. 6 of them have serious injuries, and the boat drivers now facing boating while intoxicated charges.
And, if you look at the pictures on ABC 17, and I think we have some on our KWOS and 93.9 The Eagle websites, but how far this home is from the water, I don't know how fast this dude was going. But and one of the witnesses just said, yeah, the boat was airborne.
Clearly, and the where the damage is on the house. So the house is 2 stories, but the back end you've got kind of a 1-story, and it kind of sheared off the top edge of that first story. I mean, it had to have been airborne. It's just
they're lucky they're not all dead.
Oh my gosh.
I was thinking about as I was flying over the weekend, all the people thrown from the boat, and the State Highway Patrol told ABC 17, they're like, yeah, you want to be, if the boat's in an accident, you want to be away from the boat. And I got to thinking about an airplane, and I get it, it's for turbulence, but I'm like, what the hell, what's a seatbelt doing for me on an airplane?
Yeah, you're just going down anyway.
Yeah, But
I mean, and you see that boat, I mean, it's perfectly upside down the way that it landed, so it's probably, you're right, it's probably good that they said they were all ejected. But, I mean, again, I have been to the Lake of the Ozarks hundreds of times. I have lived in mid-Missouri all my life, and there's been some bad boat accidents, but I don't know that I've seen anything quite like this.
8 people on a boat, goes airborne, slams into a house, and then apparently police saying yesterday, hey, so the public, they get to gawk, and yesterday they're showing up at these people's house, and the people were home, by the way, apparently in the bedroom when this boat, middle of the night, it was almost midnight when this happened. This boat comes flying through the air, boom, right into the bedroom. But I don't think any of the folks were from Missouri, but here's what I think happens. It's just like when we go to, for example, Vegas, we lose our minds, don't we? I'm in Vegas, strange town. I can do whatever I want. I can eat whatever. I can act however I want.
I usually go there for work, so I am not.
Maybe I'm talking to the wrong person.
And hang out with the Stanley Cup champions.
Well, that's true. But yeah, no, I mean, people like to have fun in Vegas, and I think you're right. They come here on vacation, and, and I don't know what the rules are for people who aren't experienced boaters. But I do know the rules late at night, and I think I've only been out late on the water maybe one time, and I said I'd never do it again. I mean,
I think there's a 30-mile-per-hour after-hour speed limit on the lake.
Welcome to the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. How you doing, John?
Doing good.
Stephanie Bell.
I'm great.
How are you doing? Well, I was going to say, man, a lot of text. Man, the show was incredible last week, and I almost hesitate to even share those texts. People bragging how good it was and everything. I almost hesitate because it's like, yeah.
Duh, John and I are holding down the fort. We're doing good. We got Hannah. We're all.
Yeah. So I don't know, do I hype that? Because to me, it's just kind of understood. But I am very appreciative, and it makes me realize I should leave more often.
No, you shouldn't. We are very glad you're back.
There's producer Hannah.
I'm looking at your PTO time, Rathert, and I don't know about that.
Yeah, am I starting to get close on it? Welcome to the show. It's not what you do for you. 874-9390. 874-9390. Some cars going to be discontinued. Well, there's several of them, but the big names I think that everybody's going to recognize to be these 2 cars because they are right now best-selling muscle cars in America, have been for a while. And they're being dropped. How come? Because Joe wants you to buy an electric car. Dang it.
Those Dodge Chargers and Challengers, totally gone.
Totally gone. They're doing an electrified version. As a matter of fact, Challenger, #1 muscle car in the country in 2021. But here's what Tim Kuniska says. He is the chief executive for Dodge. He says the start of a bright new electrified future is coming.
What's the name going to be? Like Charger, Challenger. I'm thinking like VW, like a bug, like a beetle, but it's got to be something.
Call it the AC Charger or something.
A Sparkler or something like that. Those cars are going away. And by the way, coming up, we'll do some leftovers. We do that right before we get into the Gary Nolan show, my dad's favorite show. Scott Rowland, former Cardinal, inducted in the Baseball Hall of Fame over the weekend. Coming up in leftovers, the 4 words that his dad said to him that, in effect, changed his life, changed how he approached things. I thought that was pretty cool. Sunrise Beach. We had a story a couple of weeks ago, somebody embezzling a bunch of money, but apparently a Sunrise Beach woman charged with stealing and forgery, accused of embezzling almost $3 million from her employer, according to KRCG. The owner said their employer, Daniel Thomas, has been embezzling money from them since 2017. This was apparently at an attorney's office. Officers said they were given banking records with checks from September of 2017 up until last month that the owner said were. And this kills. Like, how do you get away with that? I guess you don't. Obviously,
I don't know.
And the other thing that I always think, and it's happening to somebody right now.
Yeah, we've seen some crazy embezzlement stories in Mid-Mo.
Yeah.
I wish I had enough money to not notice that $3 million of it was missing.
Hannah's over here trying to buy $17 grapes, dang it.
Cotton candy grapes, Rathert.
Cotton candy. We were talking about how
With
frustrating.
a limited shelf life.
And then I found them at the grocery store in, California Mo for like $5 a pound.
I got so mad at my husband this weekend because I returned something and I said, "Hey, have you seen that come back through?" He's like, "Well, how much was it?" And I was like, "It was like $100." And he's like, "I wouldn't notice." And I'm like, $100? Come on. I mean, what was this? $3 million?
2.8.
2.8, almost $3 million.
It's a different level.
Yeah. I mean, like if you, if I misplaced $5, I know that I have misplaced $5.
I'm super mad. I lost a $17 lip gloss, and I woke up mad about it this morning, and I've been looking everywhere. I was hoping it was in the studio somewhere, but I can't find it.
874-9390. So we were talking about how tough it is now. Prior to Joe, here's the most simplistic way to put this, and these are facts. These aren't just conservative talking points. They're only facts. Prior to Joe becoming president, you buy $100 worth of stuff. Today, 2 years later, 2.5 years later, now costs $116 to buy $100.
I had a kid lose 2 teeth this weekend. You know what the inflation is on the tooth fairy?
What's the conversion rate on that?
Right, I had to ask around.
And I love this because we had a listener text in. His name is Danny. Because I always say when I hear about all this bizarre stuff and people think that like Joe Biden is doing a good job, I can't get my head around that. Or all these crazy Democrat things. Well, let's pick a person. It doesn't matter if they're qualified for the job. What matters is how they identify. What matters is their color. All these weird things that Democrats worry about, songs from country artists. And so I wonder, how do those conversations with Democrats like these go? If you know somebody, share. I appreciate Danny, who was in Jefferson City this morning. He says, I am a Democrat, JFK Democrat. He says people need to work, stop depending on government welfare. There would be less crime and silly rules if people were kept busy working and being productive. That's a Democrat. Thank you, man. 874-9390. Now we go to Columbia. That's where we find Chris. Chris wants to talk about embezzling. This story, a woman from Sunrise Beach. We had another story a couple weeks ago. Like, how does this happen? What's up, bud?
Well, what you just said before I got on the phone, I was going to say amen to that. But, the moral of this story is it's actually a boat lift place. Okay, they manufacture boat lifts. But the moral of the story is, and I know people that work down there, when you realize that your bookkeeper is driving a brand new paid-for BMW, you start asking questions.
Or when your producer is buying grapes at $17 a pound,
right?
You also start asking.
You see, you were gone a week. You see what happens?
Hey, Chris, we appreciate you being a part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning. We love you, man.
See, I have that same thing when I see someone driving like a super nice car, but but my answer isn't embezzling. I'm always like, it's got to be drugs. That's what I'm always like. It's drugs. Now, did you see the drug numbers last week?
Marijuana sales in the state of Missouri? They're
so
killing it.
Jennifer and I were talking about that on Friday. It's like
He was too busy checking out the sales in Idaho.
$4 million a day. And Jen pointed out we only have like 6.5 million people in Missouri. So everyone's doing like $1 worth of weed a day. What? Because there are some of us who are abstaining, which means you're doing $2 a day, right?
You're not looking at no.
Well, Hannah is.
No.
I don't know. Somebody is.
Hannah is.
I mean, that is some big time money.
Last we checked, the calendar year, 12 months, Missouri was on pace to do $1.2 billion. I think that's total rec and medicinal. But even you parse that out, and they're thinking, $1 billion just in recreational weed. It outdoes bigger states, neighboring states like Illinois would outdo what they did in their first year. It's creating jobs, it's bringing in revenue, and it's helping veterans. The revenue from the weed sales going to help veterans. Here's David Williams in Jefferson City, and anybody in law enforcement. I keep asking, and John's been around several times when I've asked this question. I think law enforcement is getting tired of me asking the question. But I asked the question because it was the big thing prior to it being legal. Well, what about driving? And what about this? What about that? And so I have everybody in law enforcement that I have talked to since recreational marijuana went legal. Law enforcement is saying there's no problems. And if we are having problems, it's the same people that were causing problems before it was legal. Everybody, without fail, no matter the town here in mid-Missouri, is saying we are not having any issues.
Well, and I think one of the worries, and we talked a little bit about this, is that it won't, if you tax it too high, it'll keep the black market around. But at $4 million a day, it sounds like there's a lot going into the regulated market, and perhaps our tax rate hit it right and where it's pushing people all into the legal regulated market.
Well, and the other thing, it's a good reminder, we stereotype because it usually works, not always. And here's one of those situations where it isn't working. If you're driving, there's dispensaries all across Missouri, but if you drive by one of the dispensaries, and especially like in the drive-through line, and you see the cars that are in this drive-through, it's not what I'm seeing, like Chevy Tahoes and professional women in these lines, and I'm seeing nice vehicles like professional.
Don't stereotype us. Mama bears or soccer moms.
Mama bears like to smoke the weed too, apparently. I just didn't know that.
I mean, I know
Soccer
a lot of
moms
people who like to for sleep, right? Who like to take it at night.
Anybody who says they're just doing marijuana for sleep, they're doing it to get high. I don't know that. Coming up, leftovers, things we didn't get a chance to get to. 4 words that former Cardinal
leftovers. Enjoy.
Some things we didn't get a chance to get to during the show. We like to do this right before we get into my dad's favorite show. It's the Gary Nolan Show. My dad, although he did text and said, hey, my new favorite show is Wake Up Mid-Missouri, featuring everybody but...
I was going to say, we finally won him over.
Yeah, when I'm not here, my dad totally digs the show. So good work, guys. A couple of things we did not get a chance to get to during the show. Steph Bell, what you got for leftovers?
Apparently, happy birthday to Claire McCaskill, who is turning the big 7-0 today.
Trump has a new campaign commercial. It's actually very good. It's him walking down a hallway, kind of almost, no, he's not jumping and stuff, but almost the vibe of a boxer walking into a ring.
The final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state.
Pretty good ad. It's black and white. Claire's reaction?
It's kind of lame.
Kind of lame. Claire celebrating her 70th birthday today. Kind of lame. I wish she'd come back on this. She was my favorite guest ever. She'd come on. People would get mad. You know what's funny about that? People got more mad when Roy Blunt would come on than Claire.
Haven't we had, like, your dad on the show before? Your son's been on the show before. She was your favorite guest ever?
Well, besides my dad and my son. Yeah, she was a good guest. Marsh, what you got for leftovers?
Well, it's not too earth-shattering, the fact that the Yankees swept the series and beat the Royals 8-5 on Sunday, but Anthony Rizzo, the big home run hitter, hit his first home run for the Yanks since May 20th, went 4 for 4 because of his brand new walk-up song, T Swift's Ready for It.
Oh, really?
I love that.
That's a bold move by a dude to pick a Taylor Swift song as your walk-up music. Scott Rowland, more baseball news here in Leftovers. I think it's kind of cool. Scott Rowland, former Cardinal, former Red, former Philly. There was a lot of question how he went into the Baseball Hall of Fame over the weekend. Not the Cardinals Hall of Fame, but the Baseball Hall of Fame. People wondered how you're going to go in. He did go in as a Cardinal, but he shared basically some words from his dad that kind of changed his life. 4 words from his dad, and not just as it had to do with sports, but kind of I think it's applicable to everything. So he was playing high school basketball. As a matter of fact, it's summer of '93. He gets drafted by the Phillies. He does not report right away because he's going to a basketball tournament. His state was playing Kentucky. It's the oldest continuing high school hoops all-star game in the country. So he reports to camp late as a teenager after getting drafted. I'm going to go play basketball. And when he was there with his dad is talking about his future in basketball. And Scott Rowland said, well, Dad, I can't handle the ball. I can't shoot. I'm completely out of basketball shape, and everybody in the entire gym, including the coach, is better than I am. And his dad said, okay, well, you've told me everything that you can't do. He says, what can you do? So Scott Rowland tells Dad, he says, well, I can rebound, I can play defense, and I can still out-hustle and outwork. And then here's the 4 words that his dad said to him that changed his whole outlook on life. After he told him all these good things he could do, his dad said, well, do that then. Do those things that you're good at. If you don't have the ability to do these other things, sure, if you really want to, try, work at it. Maybe you'll get it with, practice and reps, but maybe it's just not for you. Focus on those things that you are good at. No?
That's good advice. So I returned.
but
I returned to the adult league softball field last night, and it's a humbling experience.
Stephanie, you're the yay sports one.
I know, but I said it'd be good for the kids to watch us struggle a little bit and know that we're trying, and you don't have to be good at everything you do, and that you can be mediocre and try and have fun and still show up.
We're not all Fred McGriff, are we, Brandon?
Fred McGriff.
Hey, did you see my bowling score?
170 something.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
Call Eric Schmidt for some batting lessons.
I'm going to have to.
And